Hey everyone, welcome to another wonderful edition of Words, Images, and Worlds. Always glad to be talking with folks in the world of arts, creating comics. And on this episode, I am talking with creator Anna Morozova. Anna, thank you for jumping in, joining, talking with me for a few minutes, and I hope I navigated your last name. I hope that was good.
Absolutely.
Great.
All good, Jason. Thank you so much for inviting me over.
Yes, my pleasure. My pleasure. Thanks for saying yes. I usually mention a couple of works at the beginning, and I know you mentioned you're very much in the thick of working on things right now. You have Viva Forever, work that's been done for 2000 AD, Future Shocks, and Lowborn High being a couple of those works.
Mhm.
Any uh, best experiences or memorable titles or anything like that that's been salient that I didn't capture there?
They're all great titles. I've also done some work on the Tales from the Black Museum, a couple of
Mhm.
terror tales. I've done, that was quite a fascinating experience to work on the character Spider and the Steel Claw and Jane Bond from for Smash miniseries. Which was written by Paul Grist, and we had a different creative team on each issue. So Paul was writing every episode of the three installment piece. I did the first issue, and then two artists continued with the upcoming ones. Um, so that is that so far. But right now, I've got some interesting projects coming up as well, which I've been working so hard on the past few months. But hopefully, I'll be able to be talking more and more about them sometime soon.
Sounds great. Sounds great. Yeah, you mentioned you were keeping busy, so this is always a good thing. Always a good thing. It means we get to read
It
more and see
is.
more, and it means that you're creating as well.
Yeah. Well, the latest project I've been involved with, it's been under wraps for quite some time. I've been working really hard on it. And I'm pretty much done. Like I'm literally expected to deliver it all the pages, um, pretty much the start of the upcoming week. So we're very near. There are just like a few elements here and there I need to kind of make sure they're all done. Like just dust a few things, and it's ready to go. And it's something for Dynamite, so I'm like super excited.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
can't wait for people to see it because I put my heart, my soul, all my thought process into it. I hope that people will like it.
yeah, yeah. Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure, and looking forward to it. Um, how did you know the comics were the space that you wanted to work in?
Ah, you know, it's an interesting journey, I would say, because quite frankly, I was never really um, a big reader of comics from the start. Like I had some experience with reading comics, but I always loved animation. I always loved illustration. I did read comics that I could like get my hands on. But it just so happened in the university because my original background was not really that much illustration related. It was still kind of art mixed with technology, design and technology. I was pretty much like learning programming, doing UX, UI design, product design, things like that. But in the last year, I kind of started drifting back towards drawing again. So my final project was mixing art and technology. So I had created like a prototype of application that would work in the city environment, and that would include comics as a storytelling tool, if you wish. So it was pretty similar to Pokemon Go in a sense. It would tell like a dark history of the city I was staying in Dundee. It was like a dark tour. So you go to the actual location. Sorry about that.
That's
You
okay.
go to actual location and scan the surroundings, and interactive panels and images would pop up and tell you about the place. Um, and it just so happened that at the time, Dundee had the course of comics and graphic novels as well. And I contacted their program leader, Philip Won, and I was like, look, I made this project. Maybe there's potential in it. Maybe you want to have a look. And he was like, oh, we're actually running master's program of comics and graphic novels.
Hmm.
Would you be interested? And at that point, I had like an offer from my company to do like an internship with them, like UX UI related thing. And I had this offer from the university, and for some reason, I just decided to go for passion. I was like, um, I can always get a job now, but I will at least give it some time, develop portfolio, and at least try my way in comics because I've always enjoyed drawings, but I never really gave it a chance. And it just so happened that after I finished the master's program, I ended up getting a job with 2000 AD. So this is how it all started, and this is how I started learning more about comics. I started looking at different comics, creating them, and it's just like an endless journey, because there's just so much to unwrap. Even like if we take 2000 AD alone, there are so many stories that I want to read, I want to investigate, I want to learn from ultimately. And I have this like list pretty much of the library that I need to catch up on with. And it's just insane because I just struggle to find time
Hmm.
when
Hmm.
you draw all the time. This is bizarre. But I do catch like a minute one and there, just at least try on new books. I probably don't finish all of them, but at least I get a little bit of grasp of the vibe and the content. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there a particular kind of story that captures you that you tend to really be wrapped up in more than others?
Like I've mentioned this one so many times before, but it's been so influential that I will mention it once again. But I have to say it's Nemesis the Warlock by Pat Mills and Kevin O'Neill. And I remember this was kind of the first book that I was absolutely fascinated by the story itself. Because before I would like occasionally buy comics and I would buy them for art and there would be like some DC, some Marvel titles, I absolutely enjoyed like Harley Quinn line, you just can pick it up and these stories they're pretty much kind of one off and you look at fantastic art and you enjoy it for a moment. It's like a great piece of entertainment, an inspirational piece of entertainment. But Nemesis the Warlock was probably the first one that really got me like it completely shifted my view on storytelling
Hmm.
because it was so different. It was so dark. Um, and the artwork, this first book, like there have been some incredible talent working on this, whole series, but this first book, it's just not how I imagined comics to be. It was something completely, completely different. And there's just so much involved. There's like so many little intricate details that add up to the story, which I don't know if it was kind of solicited between the artist and the writer behind the scenes, or it was something that the artist, Kevin O'Neill, would add by himself. And I remember I just couldn't get enough of this book. I was just sitting there for hours and hours and hours, just like reading and spending some time just like looking at the panels. And obviously the story itself, there's like a lot of food for thought. So um, that one definitely. I enjoy Haley Jones,
Hmm.
obviously. I
Hmm.
haven't read all of it again, but I finished like the kind of first installment. And again, like the artwork is incredible, the story, you know. But there's like so many other books, like I'm just trying to think that because you can like talk from different perspectives that are books that inspire you, your thinking process, they challenge your views, or they challenge like so many things. And there are books that are just completely gorgeous, and the story is great, but it's like more of an entertainment piece.
Hmm.
So it just really depends. But I remember when I started learning about like 2000 AD's content, I realized that because obviously before I thought, oh, comics this is just like fun, cool world of like Spider-Man, pretty much. Um, but with 2000 AD, I realized it's absolutely not the case. And then I learned about this kind of British invasion of American comics, and you
Hmm.
realize that there's like completely different side, and there are like so many topics, and challenging things you can talk about in this medium, and you can do it. And such creative ways that no other medium pretty much allows you to, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
I would say that. Um, I just love, like recently I've picked up on The Sandman, funnily enough, because I was
Mm-hmm.
completely, I did know of characters, but I was completely unaware of the story. I didn't know where the thing came from. And I bought this like first big collection issue and I started reading it. And you just appreciate like how how creative people can be with storytelling. Um, how non-linear it is, yet linear, yet like there's so many things you can include and experiment with. Um, it just like fascinates me, like all these horizons of people's creativity, of artists and writers' creativity, they can be expressed in comics.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I'm just kind of thinking like if there was anything else, because I'm pretty sure once this call is over, I'll be like, oh yeah, of course, there was this book I forgot about. There's just so many of them. But like pretty much every book I pick up, like I learn things I get inspired by, because sometimes like I absolutely adore this like very heavy, overly detailed storytelling, like in Nemesis, for instance, where there's like so much to dig into. Sometimes I enjoy books that are like quite they're more minimal. The approach is more minimalistic, kind of more like, if you will, like a European artwork touch to them. Um, and that sometimes helps to kind of go through the story fast. It just flows, that you don't get to like stand on each page for too long. And both approaches have their advantages.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's quite cool to actually sit and appreciate what you're seeing on the page, and sometimes you kind of want to know what happens to the next one quickly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that would be my answer so far. I would say. I'm just like desperately trying to think if there was something else I've missed, because I'm pretty sure there are things, and there are like so many books that I had access to that I purchased, and I just never got a chance to like dig into them properly, which is a shame
Mm-hmm.
because some classics, some kind of new things, and it's just crazy. Like I always wonder how is like there are like some incredible artists out there, like who draw everything on paper by hand, and they're like obviously their artwork is it requires so much time. Yeah, they managed to read comics at the same time. They managed to write about comics. They managed to talk about comics. I'm like, where do you find all this time?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm, hopefully, it will come with experience later. Fingers crossed.
Well, speaking of the experience, I'm curious about your creative process. How do you approach a project? What are some of the things that you do, some of the things that you keep in mind? Any rituals, methods, materials that you like to
Hmm.
use?
Every project is different. I like working both digitally and I like working traditionally as well.
Hmm.
Um, Sometimes mixing the two really helps. It's interesting because every project that I try to do a little bit differently. I kind of try to challenge myself up to a point, which sometimes is not really an advantage, to be honest, because you kind of have this creative idea and you think, oh, I'm going to do this and it's going to be great. And it's fine whilst it's an idea. As soon as you start actually embodying it, you're like, why did I make my life so complicated? I should have just drawn it basically and would be done with it by now. But no, no, here we are, like a week later, just like still, pushing through it. Um, in terms of rituals, not really. Like I don't really think much once I read the script. I don't spend much time on thumbnails. To be quite honest, like I don't really do thumbnails because if I work digitally, I can always change things as I go along.
Hmm. Hmm.
If I work traditionally, I kind of have this image in my head already. I don't spend much time on this preliminary process. Like I look at the page, I'm pretty much aware of what I want to, how I want it to be visualized, and I just do it. Um, which is interesting because you think like if you work traditional, you want to kind of have this blueprint first,
Hmm.
but it's not really the case. Like when I try to do kind of preliminary work, preliminary pencils, they pretty much ended up being the pencils ultimately. I just think them digitally after, but they were kind of like ready pages, but they were just done pencil by hand. So there's that. Mm, what else? Well, digitally, of course, I do feel like I have more freedom because if I make mistakes, they're easier to fix.
Hmm.
But I also try to use the advantage of digital um, tools to kind of do something that I wouldn't be comfortable doing on paper. First of all, the color work and works very different. It's much easier to make a mistake on paper than digitally. And digitally, you can do like some incredible effects and like wonderful colors, and absolutely boost it up. So I kind of try to like take that advantage. And if I'm using digital technology, I want to kind of use the most out of it. Um, there's that, yeah. I like working both in black and white um, and color. Obviously, like most artists would say, I prefer coloring my own work, but it's not like no shade on any colorist. It's just like because you see like this finalized picture, and you're kind of like, I might as well do it all myself. Be a complete control freak and just like take charge of it all. Weirdly, though, I prefer working with pencils now that I think with both digitally and traditionally. Even if I'm inking the pages digitally, lately I've been mostly using very pencil looking brush. I don't know, it's just, I feel like it adds a little bit of volume and depth to the artwork because inks make it very sharp, very strict, and sometimes it loses a little bit of the original sketch. And I've always been like a person who liked seeing the sketch work.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, Even though, like, of course, sync pages, they're absolutely incredible, and there are people out there who are like masters of this craft. But I've always liked pencils for some reason. So lately, my kind of technique became to even use the pencil looking brush, even on actual inked pages. Um, because when I even try to like ink things traditionally, like I'm still familiarizing myself with different tools. And for instance, the latest project I inked by hand was the one for Smash miniseries, and I decided to go with like brush instead of a pen. And midway, you're kind of like, I probably made a mistake. Like I should have just gone with the actual pen. Brush is a bit difficult to work with because you can't zoom in. You have to like work very close, and with brush, there's like a little bit of happy accident, so to speak. You like smudge things over, and then obviously the whiteout comes in handy. Mm, but yeah, like, and I felt like after it was inked, I kind of missed those pencil pages,
Hmm.
which is why I actually kept the pencil pages and I inked the copies. So I can always look and compare. So we've
Nice.
got two. And in the folio, I can show, this is the original pencil page and this is the ink version. So you can see how the progress was, how the process was. So yeah,
Nice.
I'm a
Nice.
pencil lover. Turns out, like I love, sometimes like even the full pages. I think I've picked it up from like some European artists. You just look at the actual finalized pages, and you can see this like kind of pencil artifact to it, and it just like adds this kind of extra layer to it. It's not as like um, contrived as the ink pages, in my
Mm-hmm.
opinion.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. I love the thoughtful process, and I think I have one more official question. And you mentioned
Mhm.
you had a couple of things that you were working on, Dynamite being one of those publishers. So anything you'd like to glimpse there that you can talk about is fine. If not, that's also NDAs are a thing, so that's totally fine. As well as spaces where people can connect online, in person, and those sort of things.
You know, there's no like strict NDA with the Dynamite because they were like, you can kind of mention it if you want. And I sort of think it's sort of safe to say it now because it's pretty much done. It's gonna, there. So it's a Barbarella.
Oh, nice, nice, nice.
We're starting with a one-off, where I did the line art, I did the colors, um, and we'll see how that goes. If the editorial are finally happy with what they see, if the readers are gonna be happy with what they see, and there's gonna be some news about how it's gonna be launched though. So I'm not quite sure how this is all gonna go yet. But this is the main thing that I'm kind of wrapping up just now, and I did spend quite a time, working, and I just can't believe that we're that near completion. It just needs to be like submitted, done. After that, the next thing I've got lined up is a one-off story for 2000 AD's annual, with the writer Alec Worley. So that's going to be an interesting one. And then I've got like some other things that are kind of up in the air still. Like I'm not
Mm.
100% sure what the schedule is going to look like. I've got some interesting offers. I've got some interesting discussions where we're already kind of on the script stage. So I will surely keep myself busy somehow. I just don't know how yet. Like we'll see. The life will decide for me. I think it will all fall into place as soon as I'm officially like completed with this Dynamite book, and after the one of story 40,000 AD, we'll see where the journey takes us. But things are looking busy. It's just it's just like balancing it all out. Um, is a craft in its own right, so to speak.
Oh, yes, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And then any web spaces where people can see what you're working on, social media, things of that nature.
Oh God. Yeah. So I've got a website. It's annamarozova.uk, where there are links to my Instagram account, my X account. I've got a very common name in Russian, so the spelling of Instagram is a little bit awkward. So I suggest to just go on the actual website annamarozova.uk and following the link from there. Because if I start spelling it now, people will be like very confused. But I'm found there. Unfortunately, I'm not like the most active on social media. Like this is something to work on. But there are bits and pieces I share of the art process, so people can catch up with news and updates there.
Sounds wonderful. Sounds wonderful. Well, I'll I'll link to the website and I'll also link to the Instagram from the website.